Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Open Animation Summer of Portfolio Lesson 1. My name is Nastya Garashenko, and I will be walking you through our slides today. Just so everyone knows, these slides will be linked below. All of the links that I'm going to be showing you are actually linked to all the photos that I'm going to be clicking on during the presentation. So, we're about to start our great summer of portfolio. Today's lesson is all about building your brand and how terrifying that really can be. But we're going to try and make it simple, and then we're going to introduce websites, which might make it even more terrifying for some people, but we're going to try and get through that together, hopefully. I'm going to start off with a video
because it demonstrates incredible marketing capability. Life is not about being liked, it's about being effective. My card is die cut. My card is foil stamped. My card is embossed. Crowds guaranteed. You're kidding. My card, instead of telling you that I'm a CEO, because who cares about my title, tells you about the result I generate. I build crowds. Guaranteed. What do you do, guaranteed?
And I think that video really sums up a lot of what a personal brand can do for you. So when you're submitting to a job, you really want the recruiter to have this look, right? You want them to look at your resume, your cover letter, your portfolio, and be like, wow, that looks nice. Because you really want to communicate on every single front that you know how to make things look nice. We're artists, we work in a visual medium, and a lot of our job is making things look aesthetically pleasing or creating a kind of feeling from all of our work. And to do that, it does have to be cohesive to an extent. Which also brings me to my next point. Having a personal brand really ties things together in your professional package. I'm going to be talking about the idea of a professional package a lot during this class. That basically means you're going to have your resume, your cover letter, your business card, and then your portfolio. And you kind of want all of those things to have the same personal brand attached to them. You don't necessarily want to submit 4 different pieces of content, even if they're just a resume or a cover letter, that look like they might have been made by 4 different people. You do want to have some level of personal identity connected to the things you're submitting. And then lastly, it should on every single moment be saying what our friend who didn't blink at all in the video was saying, is that what do you guarantee? You are actively trying to sell yourself through these tools, through your professional package. You are trying to convince everyone who looks at your resume, your cover letter, and your portfolio that you can do the job that they will hire you for. So what do you guarantee? That answer is going to vary drastically based on which applications you're filling out, which is also why you're probably going to want to switch up specifically your portfolio to the job and your cover letter to the job specifically, right? But at every single moment, people should be getting an understanding of what do you do and what can you offer people who you're going to be working with. I'm going to go over just a few examples of like how I built my personal brand. So these are some recent art pieces that I made within like the last few months. And when I look at these pieces, the things that I notice the most are that I really like bright colors, right? Love oranges, love yellows. All of my shadows are like these blue purpley colors. And then I also really like strong vertical and horizontal lines. Almost like a Mondrian painting, all of my drawings have these very strong vertical and horizontals. And so based on that, I went and I designed this resume, right? I of course have my tagline here that says I'm an animator and a developer, and I have my experience, my education, all these things that are important to understand the content. But just by glancing at it, you kind of understand like what my work might look like. I have these really rigid structural elements, and then I also have these 2 bright colors. An important thing to note when you are creating resumes with color, you want them to read even when they're being printed out in black and white. A big reason behind this is because if you're going to go to an interview, they might print out your resume, and they're not going to spring for color printing. So you want them to be able to read the things that they print out that have your name affiliated with them. I'm going to show you a few examples of my friends. They let me show off some of their portfolios and their logos specifically. So first one is my friend Christina. She is a 2D character animator, as you can see from her tagline, but this is the kind of work that she makes. She makes these really colorful, really kind of slanted pieces. She doesn't really like straight lines. She has a lot of curves, really interesting perspective, and she has this very fun, absurdist humor. And even without seeing any more of her work, you kind of get a sense of what she likes to do just by looking at the font she picked out. I love the font she picked out for herself. I think it says a lot about her work and what she likes to do. And when you look at the rest of her work, it really does match it. Another friend that I have is Glow. Glow is an illustrator, hand lettering. They do a lot of work for board games. And as you can see by their logo, they hand letter their logo, which, first of all, if you have hand lettering in your portfolio, you might want to hand letter your logo simply because it is another strong point of like, hey, I say that I can hand letter, so I'm going to show you right from the first thing you see on my website that I am very good at hand lettering. And then you also get a sense for the rest of their work. They have this very nice vectorized style. All of their lines are very clean, and you get a sense of that just by looking at their logo. Another friend that I have is Barnaby. He lives in the UK, and I mostly bring this up because I really love how he uses this color yellow. I know that he really likes to use this color yellow in his work. And so when I see this color yellow, I feel like I associate it with Barnaby really strongly. He doesn't have his name in his logo, but his logo does kind of demonstrate exactly who he is in the sense that when you look at his work, you can almost cherry pick exactly the moments in his work that are going back to the logo that he has. And then once again, he has his social media icons, and those are in a matching color. And it really does work to, when you lay them all out together on one page like this, it really does feel like one cohesive thing that one person is making. So this is another example. This is my friend Z. And if you are just looking at this logo, you might get a sense of exactly what kind of work Z makes. So if we go to Z's website, you'll see that almost all of Z's, gonna need to wait for it to load, are very brushstroke heavy. And I wanted to show Z's work specifically because Z does a lot of work in black and white, old movie posters, and so having this black and white, like you don't have to use color as an example for how to build a brand, because even if your work is in black and white, you can still do that very well by just thinking about the pieces of your work that you want to highlight and translating that back to the logo. If you do want to use color, I personally recommend this color picker. It's pretty limited in what it can do, but it's very specific for branding. So like you can do complementary colors, analogous colors, triadic, and then it's not super limited, but if you do have one color that you really like, you can start finding colors that match to try and think about, like, from a graphical standpoint, what might look good in your logo. Moving on, here at Open Animation, we unfortunately do not have a large, thriving career center. We don't have a lot of money to throw at that, but there are places in the world that do have a lot of money to throw at that, specifically art schools. So here we're going to do a little bit of fun espionage. We're going to sleuth our way through several pretty large art schools and find their career center pages. So the first one I'm going to highlight is the Maryland Institute College of Arts. If you read my resume, this is the college that I went to, but I specifically like the way that they have their PDFs. So mostly because their PDFs have a lot of examples. So if you're interested in different kinds of resumes, like the resumes that you submit for jobs versus galleries versus residencies are all very different. And this document on the MyCup website actually goes through all of those differences. And so here we can see if you're a more established artist, this is a good resume version to use. If you are applying to an exhibition, this is a very good template to use. Another thing that I like about the MyCup website is that they have some helpful links for how to document work and then how to build a PDF portfolio. For a lot of jobs, you're not going to be submitting a PDF portfolio, but if you are submitting to a residency program or a gallery or a exhibition, they might ask you for a PDF portfolio. So that is there if you want to look. Another thing they do is how to build a LinkedIn profile. This is actually a very good guide. If you don't have a LinkedIn, highly recommend that you use this to build yourself one. Another art school that I'm going to highlight is the School of Visual Arts in New York City. Okay, so I mostly just really like their PDFs for cover letters are fairly good, but I mostly like their resource by major. So if we're in animation, here are a bunch of places we could do job searches, and here are a bunch of associations, directories, and publications that we can check in with once in a while. They might even be potentially good for volunteer opportunities, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. If you're into illustration, here are job searches, associations, museums, and galleries that you can visit that specialize in illustrations and cartoons. And unfortunately, most of these are United States centric, but they do have a few in London and some Eastern European countries as well. And then the last school I'm going to highlight is CalArts. So CalArts, it's kind of hard to find it, but lucky for you, I found it and I linked you to it. So I really like their tip pages. It's the front page of all of their guides. These are incredibly good tips. I really like them. Their examples are fine, but their tips specifically are very helpful and they're very succinct. Another thing that I really like is, once again, they have external job boards linked here for finding jobs specifically in animation, TV, and film. And then also gaming, VR, just a lot of really good resources to help you find a job. And all of the links that I've clicked in and have linked in the video are all, they don't have a paywall. You can just look at them, you can go and search around. And so this is homework for the class, but if you are at home and you're watching this video, you can also do it. I just recommend spending 30 minutes looking through all of the PDFs on these sites and seeing if you find any information that you don't know. Some of the information is a little bit outdated. Like, for example, people don't send CDs or flash drives anymore. Everything is mostly submitted online. And a lot of people will, okay, so it really gets down to between PDF and online portfolios. I would highly recommend an online portfolio. People can be really concerned about opening files from people they don't know very well. But if it's just a URL that they can click on and they don't have to download anything to their computers, they're usually a lot less apprehensive about that. Another thing that I would highly recommend if you aren't in the United States is looking at local colleges to you, colleges that are within your country, because once again, all of the things that I'm going to be going over are pretty US centric, and I would imagine that different countries have different notations for how to write about yourself in a professional capacity. As I mentioned before, one of the really good things that you can have on your resume are community engagements. So I talked about that a little bit, mostly because SVA has a lot of those community engagement options on their website. But I just wanted to highlight a few more if you haven't heard of them. So if you have not volunteered for a film festival in your area, I highly recommend that you at least look into it. This is Film Freeway, and here you can just look up film festivals around the world. A lot of festivals are online right now. The good thing about this is that you can virtually volunteer at any festival, like anywhere in the world, and not have to pay any travel expenses. Unfortunately, though, like There is a pandemic right now, which does severely limit your ability to network at those kinds of events, but it does show that you're actively engaging in the community. These are three specific to animation communities that you can join or even apply for a mentorship with. WIA is Women in Animation. It's not exclusive to women. Their main goal is to reach a 50-50 divide between men and women. They do also include gender minorities. So if you are put off by the name Women in Animation, it is not exclusive to women. It is mostly just seeking gender equality in the animation industry. SIGGRAPH is one that I have personally volunteered for. If you're into VFX for video games or animation, I highly recommend this conference. It's short for the Special Interest Group for Graphics and Computer Processing. And if you're into 3D, they also have a student volunteer program. If you're a student, you can volunteer. Everything is virtual this year, so don't worry about having to fly out to Los Angeles. You don't have to do that this year to volunteer. And then last but not least, Rise Up Animation is a community that is seeking to break down racial barriers in the animation industry. So if you are a person of color or in any non-white ethnic minority, this is a really great resource for you. They have mentorship programs, which means that you can sign up to be mentored by someone in the animation industry. And that can be very helpful for you to start your career. Women in Animation also has a mentorship program. And then SIGGRAPH has reel reviews, which is where people can look over your reels. So we're going to talk about the idea of these two portfolios, right? We're going to talk about two portfolios. So you're going to have your public portfolio and your private portfolio. The main difference between these two is how people access them. So your public portfolio is going to be linked on your Twitter, your Instagram, your LinkedIn. It's going to be the thing that's on your business card. It's going to be the link you send people when they're just like, oh, what do you do? Can I see some of your work? Like, it's going to be the one that is very open and easy to access. Your private one is going to be accessible through a direct link only. And if you want or you have any sensitive information, you can also put a password on that direct link to make sure no one finds it who isn't supposed to be looking for it. The main difference between these portfolios, as I mentioned, is the way people get to them, but that's not the only difference, of course. Your public portfolio can be seen by anyone online, but it can also be more generalized. So because it is not being tailored to a specific job, you're just going to have a very broad display of the amount, like the kind of work that you can make. It's going to be the homepage for your website. So if you have a link that's specific to you, you just want people to be able to see the amount of work that you can make just as soon as they click onto your name or onto your websites. And you don't need to have your name or personal information visible on this one. I do recommend that you have at least a first name, just so that it's a little bit more obvious who they're looking for. But it doesn't need to be your full name, and it can also just be your online handle or whatever you're known by online. I do recommend that you put an email on this website simply so that people can reach out to you for commissions, but I do recommend that you make it a separate email account from your personal email account simply so that it doesn't clutter your inbox any more than you need it to. The private portfolio can only be seen by people with a direct link, as I mentioned. That makes it easier to tailor it to a specific job listing. And you should use the name that you're using to apply to the job. It's not anyone's fault, but sometimes things get misplaced. And you want it to be very easy for the job that you're applying to be able to visually recognize what cover letter, what resume belongs to which portfolio. So please have your name very visible. Please make sure that your email is copy friendly. This simply means that if someone is on the portfolio page, they can just highlight and copy paste the email address. This is especially helpful if you have a wonderfully long name like me and you're very nervous about people misspelling it. And so you just want to make sure that it's easy to copy paste it into an email. here are some tips on how to create a private portfolio. I would recommend that there are no links on your website that lead to your private portfolio. It can be nice to have it be visible if you want people to know that there's content that they're not able to see, but sometimes the other side of that is people can get a little bit upset if there's content that they're not able to see. It kind of makes them feel like you're keeping them out of something. And so I would just recommend keeping that link not linked on anything else on your website. I also want to make sure that you turn off SEO. So SEO is search engine options or optimization, depending on how you acronymize it. But that basically means that if I was to Google your name and Google the word portfolio, it's not going to show up in any of the results. This is also helpful if you want it to be private. If you don't want people to know your name, you can just make sure that it doesn't come up when people do search your name. Any website builder where there's SEO options, you can just turn that off and make it so it doesn't show the page as a search results. Then please make sure you have a password in place on your page if there is private information or content that is under any NDA. An NDA is a non-disclosure agreement that you sign when you work for a company. And so if you have any work that you're not allowed to publish on your own, don't include it on a public portfolio. For the next class, this is what I recommend you do before you watch the next video. Just make sure that you are able to understand the information on the websites. Try and find more websites from colleges in your area. Try and see if you can find any information that you don't already know, or see if there's any information that overlaps. And then also, I would recommend that you have two online pages set up, one that is public, one that is private. I don't necessarily need you to have any content on those pages, but I do want you to have the structure in place and have a good understanding. I'm personally familiar with WordPress and Squarespace, so if you're using those two website builders, you can reach out to me through the Open Animation Discord if you have questions. And then once again, I've been talking about Open Animation a little bit, but if you don't know, it's a community-run animation education Discord. So you can become a student, or you can just follow along with lessons that are online. You can check out the Instagram, the Twitch channel, or the Twitter, or just go to openanimation.org and you can join the community or volunteer. All right. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you all next class.